Okay, let's move on to Packers-Niners on Sunday, early evening, 53 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 7 miles per hour is the wind. Let's take a look at the SBR odds page. And by the way, if you're liking what you are seeing on the show, please hit the link at the bottom of the page, www.sbrvideo/theaudible. Please hit that link for us. That is all we ask. That's all we ask of you, and it means so much to us to show SBR the value of this show. And we thank you guys so much for watching it. San Francisco, second in the NFL during the regular season, allowing 281.8 total yards. They allow 147 to the Vikings. We already talked about them demolishing the Packers in Week 12. Aaron Rodgers threw for 104 yards, got sacked 5 times. Coleman, Breda, Mostert, second NFL rushing attack, averaging 144.1 yards. They ran for 186 against the Vikings. Coleman ran for 105 and 2. You have Kittle rolling, Debo Samuel rolling. You have this defense that's healthier than they've been, all year. Bosa, Ford, Alexander, Sherman. It just looks like such a dominant squad right now. Green Bay 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 versus an opponent with a winning record. And that one was the Niners. That loss was Niners. The under is cashed in each of the 4 Packers' last 4 games against an NFC opponent. San Francisco 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 against a team with a winning record. Donnie right side, Packers, Niners. It opened at 7. It's now at 7.5. This total stood at 45 for a long time. What's your move here, Donnie right side?
It's one of the same things as last week, Jimmy. 7.5 as they're currently sitting out there, waiting to get a true 7 or something close to it. I've been on the San Francisco 49ers all year. They're by far the best team in the NFC and have been all season long. And when you take a look at the Green Bay Packers, my thoughts coming into the playoffs were the 2 worst teams to enter the playoffs were the Philadelphia Eagles and the Seattle Seahawks. And then Green Bay followed right behind them. And how about that? You get the Eagles through to some shenanigans in Week 17. You get the Eagles and the Seahawks to cancel themselves out and basically serve up an easy victory to the Packers last week, because we all know you can't have a playoff football team that just takes the first half and laughs at it and has been atrocious all year and then say, Russ, you're the best player in football. I'm going to call a play. I don't even care if you follow the play. Just go make magic happen. It's amazing if Seattle actually came in without an offensive coordinator and said, Russ, just run around out there for 4 quarters. They probably would end up 16-0. It was a lot of fun to watch. They weren't able to get over the hump. But now you're serving up again, because as Whale Capper talked about myself, the first game was a lot worse than 37-8. And the worst part about it, if you are a Green Bay backer, Green Bay fan, or Green Bay player, had nothing to do with scheme. You just got your ass kicked. And sometimes when you go up against, if anybody's ever played sports, and you said, you know what? It wasn't a fluke bounce here or a kickoff return here. For 4 quarters, they killed us. And I know they're going to do it to us again. And you line up in that same spot, because even when you look at the first game that came around, the Green Bay Packers were 100% healthy. Now, there is one caveat. Brian Bulaga left 9 snaps into that football game against San Francisco, who he also sat out last week with the flu. They should be healthy and ready to go. But when you take a look at it from the 49ers standpoint, no Quan Alexander in that game, no D Ford in that game, no Joe Staley at left tackle in that football game, and also it was no Matt Breida, one of the running backs. So they came in a little bit hobbled. Let's also not forget, when you say, oh, well, Green Bay is a tough spot to be in. Green Bay came into that game against the San Francisco 49ers with a bye, and that was their performance. So they had 2 full weeks to sit back and go, let's get the best scheme we can get together. That's what they came up with and almost got their quarterback killed. I don't see how it changes. And the crazy thing about translating, maybe what happened last week into this week, if you watch the 49ers game when they were finally healthy on defense, which are going to be on again, they made Dalvin Cook look slow out there, which was amazing. It's the 49ers or nothing. I hope the Super Bowl ends up, to be honest with you, the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers. That will be so much fun to break down over 2 weeks. But it's not a matter of how much San Francisco, if San Francisco can win. It's just by how much San Francisco is going to win by this weekend.
Billy Boxer is on San Francisco team total over 26.5. Says, I see Rodgers throwing a few picks, short fields, and a major beatdown. Jay Peach agrees with that. Sean Mick says, can the Packers get to their team total of 17.5? And America says, last week was the NFC Championship game. Vikings, 49ers was it. 49ers roll. Gas Station Sushi said earlier in the chat, and I copied and pasted it, I had the Vikings power rating higher than the Packers going into last week. Therefore, the Niners should beat the Packers worse. I've made a mess of the Niners this year. I was so afraid of the Saints, and I made a mess of it. So I have 300 on the Niners to win the NFC, a plus 100. So I put $150 on the Packers plus 7.5 and took that $150 and put it on the Niners to win the Super Bowl at plus 150. That's where I stand right now. I made the Packers plus 7.5 an official play. Those are my only two looks for this week, are just middles, seeing if I can get some middles here. Whale Capper, Packers, Niners. You have two looks on this game, and break them down for us.
Yeah, so I agree with almost all the sentiment there, and that Donnie laid out. The chat is kind of enthusiastic about these 49ers, and I think that from my handicap, the only advantage that I see is the Niners pass offense against the Packers pass defense. I find to be a wild mismatch, and it's a little bit of a leap because Jimmy Garoppolo was not good last week. He played a very underwhelming game, yet they got the cover with ease. The rest of the team around him is so talented and is all healthy, and they had amazing coaching in that game, I thought. And honestly, like, Shanahan knew it and saw Jimmy G was having a little bit of a tough performance, and so he pulled the trigger and said, hey, look, man, like we'll get this with our ground game. We know we can do it. We have the road graders, we have the running backs. We got fresh legs. We'll carry this home. We're not going to put too much more on your shoulders. Not going to ask too much more of you. And they got it done, with ease. And I would expect coming into this game that Shanahan's system, Shanahan's scheme matches up extremely well with the Green Bay Packers defensive backfield, as I mentioned. Packers defense tends to run predominantly a couple of zone looks. Sometimes they do, they rotate into man coverage. And the only kind of advantage they have is that they mix that sort of stuff up. And Shanahan does a really brilliant job of moving guys around pre-snap, having his quarterback identify the type of coverage, and setting him up with a first read that is a one-strike home run, slam dunk. This guy will be open on this part of the field. Like, that is the beauty of a Kyle Shanahan offense, is that if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, you don't have to go through your whole progressions and find your second, third, and fourth receiver. You are told pre-snap, like, go here. And he can execute that perfectly. And I think that this is exactly the type of pass defense where that will thrive. So the idea that the Niners are going to be able to get chunk yards through the air leads me to making my most confident play of the week, the Niners team total over. I think this team is going to have absolutely no problem moving the ball. All I need is like a little bit of red zone efficiency, and this is a no-doubter. So I'm on over 26.5 team total for the Niners. I think they land somewhere between 28 and 35, and I think this is their game to lose. On the other side of the ball, and looking specifically at the point spread, the Packers on offense, they really don't have a lot to go on in this game. Like, what worked last week against the Seahawks, pretty much just ISO looks to Davante Adams. That's not going to be there. Like, if you're the Niners defense, you can put Sherman on Adams for a majority of this game, and he did a phenomenal job of covering Adams in the first contest. Like, that is a perfect matchup for the Niners defensively to keep Adams under wraps, which means this entire game for the Packers depends on Aaron Rodgers making plays to his second, third, fourth receiving options. I do not like that at all for him. He has had a very difficult time developing chemistry with anyone not named Davante Adams. Aaron Jones has had to be looked upon to be kind of the savior of this offense when Davante Adams is taken out of the game. And to be honest, the front seven for the Niners defense is so healthy and so fast. I will be blown away if Aaron Jones can get much going on the ground in this game, which I think sets them up to a lot of third and long situations, a lot of prayers from Roger to, some of his receiving targets, guys who the Allisons and the Equanimous St. Browns and, the Jimmy Grahams, like guys who just have not had a lot of production this year, do not have a lot of chemistry with Rodgers. And I think this sets up for a pretty frustrating performance for this Packers offense. Again, kind of adding to like my general criticism of Matt LaFleur's performance over the course of this year. He won 13 games in the regular season. Great work. He did a great job of scripting first 15 plays in most of those games. Congratulations. He does not have the adjustments. He does not have the tools, in my opinion, to really make early hay here against this Niners defense, which I think is absolutely running full cylinders right now. And if anything were to go sideways in this game, if I'm trying to make a case for the Packers, I'm literally grasping at straws. Like, maybe they get an early fumble, maybe they get a punt block, maybe they get a kick return. Like, you literally need some fluky plays on the Packers, I think, to put points on the board. And if you kind of go and now compare to, okay, if we think that the reasonable ceiling for the Niners in this game is 28, 35 points, I just don't see how the Packers are going to get there or be anywhere close to covering in this one. So I laid the 7.5 points, thinking that the Niners get this done in style. Wouldn't hate for the night game to be a little bit more entertaining and compelling. But I just don't think we're going to see it. I think the Niners get a double-digit win and move on to the Super Bowl.
Double-digit win, move on to the Super Bowl. Man, Chiefs-Niners would be so nice. Team total over as well for Whale Capper. Donnie Rightside, what do you think of this total that's been sitting at 45? Sitting at 45 for a while. The 17.5 at Bet365 is juiced to the under for a team total for these Niners. The 27.5, interestingly enough, Whale Capper, is also juiced to the under for the Niners. That's interesting to see that. Both of the unders, 27.5 and 17.5, are juiced to the under. Donnie Rightside, totals, team totals, does any of that interest you?
You know, Whale Capper brought up a really good point from the game last week, which was left out. They basically said Minnesota, who, if Kirk Cousins gets hot, you can be good. You have one of the most explosive running backs. We have 2 elite wide receivers. And they laughed and said, you guys can't even move the football. So I saw Jimmy Garoppolo at the end of the half, and we maybe wanted to drive it downfield and put the nail in the coffin before the half through that interception. Went back in halftime and said, look, we're just better than this football team. Let's just not make a mistake, and we're going to move on. That's a sign of an unbelievable coach. Now you head into this week and you say, maybe the same thing can take place, because you're talking about an elite level defense that was without D Ford the first time around. You saw when D Ford got added back in, it's almost illegal to say, I'm going to rush 4 guys up here. They're going to collapse your entire pocket as soon as you hit your 7th step of the drop, and then we're going to drop 7 elite guys who are super fast in the coverage. So monopolize that by over 4 quarters and see what looks. The ball has to get out quicker. So now we're going to say, if we're looking at a total, is advantageous to say, well, Devontae Parker or Devontae Adams is a really good wide receiver. Let's take 7-step drops on play action, see if we can hit it deep. No, this is one of those games where you might even run up tempo if you're Green Bay, just to try to meet 3-step drop, 4-step drop, 5-step drop, no 7-step drop to go deep. Maybe lean on the running game. That defense is so fast and effective that I can almost see San Francisco saying, we know we're going to be able to score in this game. We don't need to max out on offense. Let's just hang around and beat the hell out of their offensive line again and see what happens. I actually like the under 45, and I think it plays out. Whale Capper, I think you could probably agree. It has that same type of feel last week at the Vikings, like a 27-10 type of final here. It does.
Yeah.
Interesting. Whale Capper, there are 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs. Who do you like to win the Super Bowl?
Oh, Pat Mahomes and Big Red. Absolutely lethal combination right now. Andy Reid gets his this year. I think the writing is on the wall. I get it that Shanahan. I guess that I don't want to totally dismiss the Niners and their ability to compete in the Super Bowl. Like, they're going to be a tough out. But Pat Mahomes and company are, they're on another level offensively. Jimmy Garoppolo. Still, next year, Niners are going to be a little bit more feisty in the playoffs after Jimmy's got a little bit of this playoff experience under him. Maybe he performs a little bit better. But, there's kind of a specific area of the field where you can where Jimmy Garoppolo's got a little bit of kind of defender blindness. He doesn't really see, like you saw it in the Vikings game. It was like completely apparent. Like, Kendricks was baiting the guy, and he should have had 3 picks in that game. And I think that to a degree you can set up a similar situation if you're the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of defending Garoppolo, making him make some mistakes, and then force them into a little bit more conservative offensive play calling, and then let your horses run. Hit some home runs to Ty Hill. It should be a lot of fun in that. Miami, it's gonna be warm weather probably. Controlled. We were at that stadium, relatively controlled stadium. Wind's not probably going to be much of a factor, even if it is a little windy down there. So I think this sets up pretty well for the Kansas City offense to rule the day, run the table here, and get Andy Reid his first ever Super Bowl win, which would be pretty damn exciting.
It's going to come down to some. I have a possibility for some big cash in the Super Bowl. I'm in a pool. A straight-up pool where you get 11 points because there's 11 playoff games. And so what I did was I was like, man, the only chance I have of winning this pool is to take the Titans to straight up beat the Ravens. And only 5 other people out of 179 did that. And I'm in real nice shape. But it will come down to who I decide to win the Super Bowl, and we've got a couple weeks for us to hammer that. God, I hope it's Chiefs Niners. How much fun would that be? Donnie, right side, there are 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs. Who wins the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I'll lean on still San Francisco. But again, it's nice that Andy Reid is going to get a bye going into the Super Bowl, which you know how he usually does prepare very well. Shanahan should be ready to go. Shanahan's called plays in the Super Bowl as well. I'm really looking forward to it. And hopefully down in Miami you don't get too much rain and into the forecast, because this is going to be unbelievable. And finally, as we said all season long, wouldn't it be so nice to remove the Patriots, that boring-ass cap that you have 2 weeks to sit and get ready for? You have a quarterback run out of the tunnel, the crazy train. And I keep saying it because it's like a nightmare that goes through my head. I would love to cap this game. I'll stick with the San Francisco 49ers as winning it all, but it is kind of tough because, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, like, when you're under the gun, like, isn't that the offense? Isn't that the guy you want? And Andy Reid's dialing up. It's a shame that Andy Reid couldn't learn in Philadelphia that you actually need wide receivers to win football games, and when he finally goes to Kansas City, he gets one. Look how good his football team is. I will always root for Big Red. If the Eagles hadn't won one, I wish he would have burned in hell, but hey, bygones can be bygones. We can change our opinions there, but I would lean on the 49ers.
Lean on the 49ers. Man, I hope that's the game we get to talk about. It would be so much fun. RB, for instance, how about that 49ers defense? Their last 4 regular season games heading into the Vikings, they were horrible. The idea they can't be had because of Week 12 is far-fetched, in my opinion, says RB Fern. He says, this is starting to sound eerily like no way the Saints and Ravens can lose. And RB Fern's on the Packers plus 7.5. They're most likely winning, says our RB Fern in the chat. Bob Lee Swagger said, everyone counting out the Titans. Everyone counting out the Titans. Our very own Parlay Poppy, whom I love dearly, came second last in the Pick 6 contest. He plays 2,498 out of 2,499. And early in the playoffs, he told me the Titans are going to win the Super Bowl. Lock it in. Titans are going to win the Super Bowl from Parlay Poppy. So the Titans do have love, Bob Lee Swagger, from one Parlay Poppy. Brandon Beeson says, love that you're not giving the Packers a chance. Going to be awfully quiet in this podcast next week, says Brandon Beeson. Brandon Beeston. Prince of the City says, I want the Chiefs, but have to fade the Philly Fat Man. The Philly Fat Man, says Prince of the City. Wow. All right. There you have it. Titans, Chiefs, Packers, Niners. Rafa, could you please put up Whale Capper's action heading into Conference Final Sunday? There you have it. Tennessee, Kansas City, first half, under 25.5 plus 102. Niners, minus 7.5 at plus 103. Niners team total over 26.5 at minus 105. Nolino says, way to build his credibility score, telling us that Parlay Poppy's not an NFL capper. Man, he's a spectacular baseball and NHL capper. He was only doing the contest just for gags. Hilarious gags. He wasn't trying. That's how you go, 2,498 out of 2,499. I love Parlay Poppy dearly. Okay, my action, Rafa, for this coming Sunday. Can you please pop it up on the screen? Packers plus 7.5 minus 107. Titans plus 7.5 minus 110. And live futures. Live futures. Chiefs Super Bowl. Chiefs NFC. Niners Super Bowl. Niners NFC. Wild. Very thankful. Very thankful. And I need it badly. I need it so badly. There you have it. There is the conference finals. We will be doing a show next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. We will be getting a first look at Super Sunday. Donnie Rightside, do you play props on the Super Bowl? Is that a regular thing you do, or is that something you stay away from?
No, that's fun. I do enjoy it because you have extra time. It's only 2 teams, and they give, ridiculous amounts of props. That's going to be a lot of fun to go over once we figure out when they get released out there. It's almost like a national holiday when these companies release their Super Bowl props. They're so much fun to get after. And when do you think you need to get your props in? There's this, an idea that if you wait till 48 hours, 72 hours before Super Sunday to bring in your props, that the props are too sharp at that point. Do you have a set day that you feel like you need to get your props in? No, if it moves 2 or 3 yards and end up losing for the 2 or 3 yards, so be it, like on a rushing prop. I'd rather be more comfortable with what I have and what I've seen and be ready to go. There's no time limit. Some you like right off the bat, whether it's like a field goal prop or, punting prop, which you don't really get too much advantageous stuff getting closer to game time unless you're going to get a hellacious rainstorm down in Miami. But the more comfortable you are, sit back your time. No time frame for me on those.
Whale Capper, do you play props on Super Sunday?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. You have to. It's one of the best ways to enjoy the Super Bowl. You get just spray the board, man.
Some interesting looks for props in this Packers game, Packers-Niners. Packers over 1.5 field goals is plus 120. And if you can get there, over 2.5 field goals is plus 350. And if you think that Rodgers is going to have trouble in the red zone, which is quite a possibility, and weather is going to be just fine, 7 miles per hour wind, maybe Packers field goal props somewhat interesting. I'll take some more time on it. There you have it.
I'll give you a quick
Sure.
under cap on the field goal props for the Packers. If this plays out like we think, and San Francisco is largely playing from ahead, especially in the second half, I don't think you're going to see a lot of field goal attempts from the Packers. Every time they have a shot, they're going to be forced to kind of be aggressive and go for 7 if they're down, 14, 21, 17 points. Like I think it's going to turn into a lot like what we saw with Minnesota last week, where they're kind of forced to be going for it on 4th down instead of kicking field goal. So just keep that in mind on field goal props.
I hear what you're saying, but I also feel like this could be similar to the Eagles-Seahawks game, where Shanahan knows that the Packers can't score on us. So why take risks, and why not just, kick the field goal, not go for the end zone, kind of play somewhat cautiously. What do you think about that idea, Whale Capper? If the Packers can't score, why should Shanahan take risks and go for big plays?
I think you're trying to win a Super Bowl here. You're not trying to just get there. And I think if you take the ball out of Jimmy G's hands this week, when he is going up against a defense where he can beat them with the first strike, you're going to have a tough time kind of getting his confidence worked up 2 weeks from now and beat the Chiefs. So you're not going to be able to go, run heavy, 30 carries between Breida, Coleman, and Mostert. You're not going to be able to get a win against the Chiefs playing that way, I don't think. So I think it's pretty important for not just this season, your chances to win the Super Bowl this year, but for future years. I think you got to put the ball in Jimmy G's hands.
Oh, no
let
doubt.
him cook a little bit.
No doubt. Sorry, I was talking about Packers-Niners. I'm saying
I'm saying for this game, I think you have to be aggressive if you're Shanahan. I don't think you can sit back on your heels. I don't think you can. Accept a 17-9 win like Seahawks Eagles. I think you have to let Jimmy G develop a little bit of confidence. This is the perfect matchup for them to do it. I think this kind of has 3-4 passing touchdowns. I'm looking for passing touchdown over props for Jimmy G probably in this game.
Oh, very interesting. Follow him, Whale _Capper on Twitter to see what he's up to. Also, Right Side VP